And welcome back. I want to give you guys an update regarding foreclosures as well as mortgage delinquencies in the US. This is because there's two new reports that was just announced last week from CoreLogic as well as from Black Knight. So with that said, let's go ahead and dive right in. This first report is from CoreLogic, which covers December 2022 through December 2021. And also I'm going to be sharing the latest trends we're seeing right now according to Black Knight here. So this first report was published on February 23rd, again from CoreLogic. And this is a monthly report they announced, which I cover on the channel, regarding mortgage delinquency rates in the US on a national level, a statewide level, and also the citywide level as well. Again, only for mortgage delinquencies and not anything other than any other debt. So here's what they're reporting here. For December, overall across the United States, for people who are at least 30 days or more past due on their mortgage payment, that represents 3% of all homeowners who have loans on their houses. 1 year ago, that rate was 3.4%. In other words, a decrease of 0.4 percentage points compared to 1 year ago. Which, by the way, they tend to go over year-over-year changes in this report here, but I actually looked at the previous report, which was right here for November. Back then, the rate of delinquency was 2.9%. So a slight increase from November to December, 2.9% to 3.0%. According to CoreLogic's principal economist, she stated the following: mortgage delinquency rates continue to post some of the strongest performance in 3 years in December as a healthy job market helped borrowers remain current on their payments. High amounts of home equity cushion those home buyers who are behind on their mortgages, which I'm going to share a new report with you guys here in just a little bit because high amounts of equity is, of course, historically speaking, but we saw a huge decrease of homeowners' equity going back to June last year, which I'll share that with you guys here in a little bit. So anyways, high amounts of home equity cushion those borrowers who are behind on their mortgages, keeping them from moving into foreclosure. While there was a small uptick in early stage delinquencies and foreclosure inventory over 2022, other delinquency measures fell to new lows throughout the year. So in regards to a quote here saying we have high amounts of equity in their houses right now, take a look at this. This is according to Redfin as of February 22nd, because they reported that U.S. homeowners have lost $2.3 trillion in value since June's peak. This is, of course, because home sold prices have decreased by about 10 to 11% on a national level ever since June last year. And the Bay Area actually saw the biggest decreases, which, by the way, based on my own analysis of the California Association of Realtors report that was published, last week? That's a decrease in the median sold price in the San Francisco Bay Area ever since April last year through January this year. Huge decreases in home sold prices in the Bay Area. It also says here as well, the Bay Area housing market has lost more value in percentage terms than anywhere else in the country. The total value of U.S. houses was $45.3 trillion as of the end of 2022, down 4.9% or $2.3 trillion from the all-time record high of $47.7 trillion in June. And this, by the way, was the largest June through December decrease in percentage terms going back to 2008. Additionally, while the total value of U.S. houses was up 6.5% compared to 1 year ago, that's the smallest year-over-year increase during any month since August of 2020. I'm really happy to see that Redfin provides some context because when we're talking about year-over-year changes, if we were only going to talk about that, we're talking about a 6.5% increase in home values compared to 12 months ago. However, though, that's because home values increased so much in the first half of 2022. And then we saw a 4.9% decrease ever since then. In any case, let's get back to CoreLogic's report here. It says December's 3% overall delinquency rate and the 0.3% foreclosure rate were only slightly higher than the numbers recorded over the previous 6 months. Both types of delinquencies bottomed out in early 2022 and are now showing signs of minor upticks because it says right here that delinquencies remain near all-time lows, though 17% of U.S. metro areas posted an increase compared to December 2021. Most of that small increase comes from a change in early stage delinquencies, which began inching up in mid-2022 after hovering near historical lows in the spring months of 2021. Still, delinquencies remain at the lowest levels since they started tracking this data back in 1999. On the other hand, though, take a look at this. December's 1.2% serious delinquency rate. In other words, that means that people are at least 90 days or more past due. So December's 1.2% serious delinquency rate has barely moved since last spring, which suggests that while some borrowers who may miss several mortgage payments, most are likely to recover relatively quickly. However, though, 65 U.S. metros posted at least a slight annual increase in overall rates in December. This marks a substantial uptick from November and represents 17% of markets for which CoreLogic tracks. So in other words, approximately 17% of all markets that CoreLogic tracks are reporting an increase in their overall delinquency rate compared to 12 months ago. And again, a delinquency is defined as at least 30 days or more past due. CoreLogic also provides some insights regarding the top 10 states that had the highest rates of mortgage delinquencies. Number one is actually in Louisiana, a 2.3% rate as of December. Mississippi close behind at 2.2%, as well as New York. And that was followed by Oklahoma, Alabama, Arkansas, DC, Illinois, Maryland, and West Virginia. They also posted that in December, only one state, which was Iowa, reported an increase on a year-over-year basis for the overall delinquency rate. So one state posted an increase compared to 1 year ago, and that was Iowa. The significance regarding that is right here. Take a look at this, because, not right there, right here. Because in November, which was 1 month ago, the report from 1 month ago, every single state reported a decrease in their overall rate. And now fast forward to November, one state is reporting increases in the overall delinquency rate. Therefore, we're seeing a slight increase overall in the US, going from 2.9% in November now to 3%, but also went from not a single state that reported an increase in their rate compared to 12 months ago. And now they're reporting one state, which is Iowa, posting the first year-over-year increase in the overall delinquency rate for quite some time. CoreLogic also mentioned here that the largest declines were actually in Louisiana, a decrease of 1.1 percentage points, followed by Washington, D.C., a decrease of 1 percentage point, and Alaska, Hawaii, and New York, all falling by 0.9 percentage points in the overall delinquency rate compared to December of 2021. CoreLogic also provides some insights regarding serious delinquencies, which is defined as 90 days or more past due, including loans and foreclosures. So for December, they reported 4 metro areas where their serious delinquency rate actually increased. So 4 metros are reported increases, and 380 are reporting a decrease compared to 12 months ago. So again, the significance regarding this is that right now, 4 metros. 1 year ago, there was actually only 1 metro which reported an increase, which is right here. 1 metro where their serious delinquency rate actually increased, whereas in December, now there's 4. So even though the vast majority of the metros in the US are reporting decreases compared to 12 months ago, it's worth noting they went from 1 metro to 4 metros in 1 month. And here's a map showing those metro areas in the US right now. So the areas here in bright green are the areas in which their rate actually increased compared to 12 months ago, which again, I would actually really love if they actually just provided those actual metros right here. But I have to look at this horrible map here. Anyways, it looks like to me that those 4 metro areas are located in Cape Coral, Florida, Fort Myers, which was heavily impacted by Hurricane Ian a couple of months ago, which is more or less right here. If you actually look on a Google map, it looks very similar to here. I'm not familiar with Florida. I live in California, so my apologies. If you guys know, for sure, let me know. But it looks like Fort Myers and Cape Coral, Florida are these metros right here that reported increases in their serious delinquency rate compared to 12 months ago. The other metros are right here, which were these metros right here in Pennsylvania. And again, I live in California, so I'm not really familiar with these metro areas here in Pennsylvania. But if you guys are, please comment below. All right, let's change gears here and talk about Black Knight's latest report here that was posted on February 24th regarding foreclosures and delinquencies in the US for January, which, by the way, this report from CoreLogic was for December here. So Black Knight reported for January that we saw a slight decrease, down 10 basis points in the national delinquency rate month over month, which is now down by 15.1% on a year-over-year basis. Also, foreclosure starts, which is more or less the beginning phase of the foreclosure process for a home, foreclosure starts saw a fourth straight increase, but remain 37% below pre-pandemic levels. Meanwhile, active foreclosures, which is the total number of foreclosures in the US, has increased 20% since January 2022, but they still remain 20% below pre-pandemic levels. Delinquencies are also down across the board in January, with their overall rate declining by 10 basis points to 3.38% on a month-to-month basis, down 15.1% year over year. The number of borrowers 30 days late decreased by 46,000, while 60-day delinquencies ticked down slightly as well. Serious delinquencies, which of course is 90 days or more past due, continue to improve nationally, down by 4,000. Of course, in Florida, they're still dealing with the aftermath of Hurricane Ian, saw another 1,700 loans that fell into serious delinquency. Additionally, foreclosure starts increased by 17% in the month to 33,000, marking the fourth consecutive increase. But of course, it still remains about 37% below pre-pandemic levels. So here's a chart showing just that. Overall delinquencies at 3.38% as of January this year. Compare that to 1 year ago, we're down by 15%. Also, for foreclosure starts, there was 33,000 for the month, and that's a decrease of 16% compared to 1 year ago, but an increase of 17% compared to December. And also there was 7,000 foreclosure starts this January, an increase of 15% compared to 1 month ago, and a fairly significant increase of 27% compared to January of 2022. And right now there's approximately 1.8 million properties that are at least 30 days or more past due. That's a decrease of 289,000 compared to 12 months ago. Also, for properties in which there are at least 90 days or more past due, there's about 579,000 properties in that category. That's a decrease of 455,000 compared to January of 2022. CoreLogic also reported the top 5 states that have the highest rates of mortgages that are past due, at least 30 days or more past due. So in the number 1 spot, it's Mississippi. The overall delinquency rate is at 8.04%. That was followed by Louisiana at 7.55%, then Alabama at 5.7%, Indiana at 5.3%, and Arkansas at 5.25%. Now, having said that, even though these are the top 5 states that have the highest rates of delinquencies in the US, they're still down compared to 12 months ago. In fact, the biggest decrease was actually in Louisiana, down by 12.89% compared to January of 2022. On the opposite end of the spectrum here are the top 5 states that had the lowest rates of overall mortgage delinquencies. So the lowest rate was actually in Washington. The rate was 1.99%. And that's a decrease of 21% compared to 12 months ago. That was followed by Colorado at 2%, Idaho also at 2%, Montana at 2.18%, and also California also at 2.18%, a decrease of almost 16% on a year-over-year basis. It's also worth noting here that these rates we're seeing right here of around 2% is very close to the all-time record lows that we saw, also in the range of about 1.7 to about 2% as well. That was set in 2004 in California and 2022 for these other 4 states. And one more thing I do want to mention is that these rates right here, again, around 2%, are much lower than the peak that we saw right here, this column right here. For example, in California, the rate's at 2.18%. The peak was set in February of 2010 when the rate was 16%. So again, the current rates right now are pretty much on par with the all-time record lows and much lower than the peaks that we saw more or less in 2010. CoreLogic also posted the top 5 states that have the highest rates of serious delinquencies, at least 90 days or more past due. Leading the nation is actually Mississippi. That rate is at 2.60%, but a giant decrease compared to 12 months ago, down by 37%. That was followed by Louisiana at 2.3%, Alabama at just under 1.8%, Arkansas at 1.6%, and Florida at just under 1.5%. And with that said, please comment below with your biggest takeaways from today's video. Also, if you guys got any value in this video whatsoever, then please hit the like button. I greatly appreciate that. Of course, I appreciate you. Hope you guys have an awesome day and look forward to seeing you on the next video.